and call our meeting to order. It is 5:30, and it's good to see everyone this afternoon. I do want to let you know that we have agendas here on the podium if anyone would like to grab an agenda and follow along with us. This is a workshop. We will not be voting on the items in our workshop other than the approval of the agenda. But immediately following our workshop, we will have a special called meeting to vote on a couple of items, and then we'll be going into an executive session. So again, you can follow along on the agenda. The first item of business is actually a public hearing, so I'm going to call on Rob Wilmot, our city attorney, to begin that public hearing. Rob, please.
Thank you, ma'am. This is going to be application PP20032 for the proposed annexation of 1.47 acres located on 40th Street, and also application PP20-0038 for the proposed rezoning of the 1.47 acres located on 40th Street. I'd like to let everybody know that the procedures, for Tifton standing and zoning exercise powers are available, and conflict of interest are available as a handout and also on the city website. I'd like to ask Council the conflict questions regarding this particular tract of land. Have any of these applicants or opponents of the application contributed at least $250 to any of the campaigns for election during the past 2 years?
No.
No. Do you or any members of your family have a property interest that would be affected by the proposed rezoning or reclassification of the property, whether there's a positive or negative impact?
No.
No.
Do you or any members of your family have a financial interest in any business entity that has a property interest in any real property that would be affected by the proposed rezoning or reclassification of property, whether it be a positive or negative impact?
No.
No.
All right, I'm going to ask Danny Wallace if he would to come up with the Department of Community Development, explain to the council this particular tract of land and the proposed zoning of that tract.
And while Danny's coming to the microphone, I failed to mention that Councilman Ehlers has recused himself from this vote, so he has stepped out of the room. So as soon as the public hearing is over, then we'll bring him back in.
Fantastic. We won't hold him back there for very long.
Take your time.
This is a small county property. As you remember, sometime in the past, it was going to be rezoned, and they wanted to redevelop it into duplexes. Well, that is not what this is. This is going to be R14 zoning, which is what is out there, every community around there, every neighborhood around there. And they are going to subdivide it in the future and build single-family dwellings, and those will be for sale to individuals. So that's about the gist of it. There is a portion of this parcel that will remain in the county, and they have sought approval from the county as well as the city. Easy enough? Any questions?
At this time, I'd like to ask if there's any members of the public who'd like to speak in favor of the proposed annexation and rezoning request. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to the proposed annexation or rezoning request? Mayor, I see no public comment. I ask this public hearing be closed.
Okay. All right, thank you, Rob. All right, we'll go back to our council workshop agenda, and we have called the meeting to order, and Jessica has emailed our packet to us last week. She always does a good job of getting our information out to us and plenty of time to review that and meet the requirements. Oh, thank you, Jessica. I'd forgotten all about Wes already. That didn't take long.
How quick can you
Sorry.
forget?
I just was going on about my business while you were back there in the closet.
Wes, we're on number 10 on the agenda.
Yeah, we're on to sorry.
Oh,
I'm
really?
sorry.
Oh, really?
No,
Oh,
no,
wow.
I'm just getting ready to
Oh, you
call
had
for a
it before.
motion on the agenda, approving the agenda. So you have the agenda before you, and I'll take a motion to either approve that or make any necessary changes.
So moved to approve.
Before you do that, do we need to add, well, I guess we'll do that when we call the special call meeting. Never mind. Okay, all right, thank you, Jack. So we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, MJ. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and I do need to point out also, we need to be thinking about Councilman Terrell. He's pulled a muscle in his neck or injured his neck somehow, so he was very uncomfortable and is not going to be here with us tonight at our meeting. So we'll check on Johnny to make sure he's doing okay. All right, the first item of business under old business is a review of the waste collection and disposal agreement with Golden Environmental. Pete, you want to walk us through that?
Before I go on to the contract, I put a flyer on top of the contract that Ricky has worked with Richard on and Natalie in customer service. So one of the items that we are going to do is the education outreach. So this particular flyer will be given to all new customers when they come to City Hall. So it's just an explanation of who the service is provided by and the little details of do's and don'ts. So I think as well that I wanted to share that with you. So we're doing this outreach just like we talked about in previous years. So moving on to the disposal agreement. As you know, we talked last time that you were interested in not doing an RFP, but wanted to look at the contract with Golden Environmental again. If you remember, it does not expire until December. It was a 1 year for this year. Ricky and I did meet with Richard and Mark Brown and talked over the details of what they did, what some of the things that were supposed to happen that you were expecting in this contract. We talked through those. Again, we added that customer service is much better, and we're now in sync with collection. So the once a week did cure a lot of those questions. But in the contract, you'll see just a little simple red line. I wanted to show you what we are making as far as changes. Very simple, nothing that stands out whatsoever. However, I did want to point out, Richard did make a comment that he has wanted to have a 3-year contract versus a 1 year. So that is up to you on how you want to proceed with that. The other is just some language about CPI, and again, we could write that in if you so desire. So again, this is for your consideration. I just need to know which way to move. If you're happy with this, we obviously need to make a decision about the length of the contract. Rob and I will finish it up if there's any other changes and have that ready for you for execution. So,
All right, what about price?
pardon?
Price?
Price, we really did not talk about price because it was 1 year. I was assuming that we're going to go forward 1 year. There would be not any changes for next year. But if you want to do multiple years, then I need to probably go back to Richard and.
Yeah, I think it's fair, no matter what contractor we would use, is to give them, I mean, that's a significant investment made, so, I think we did the 1 year, to show the contractor that we were serious, and, he made the necessary changes from my understanding, and I think a 3-year deal would probably, that's just my opinion, I don't know, but I mean, if we were to bid this out, I would think that you would get more of an appetite for this type of contract with a 3-year or multi-year contract rather than a single year. So, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to a 3-year. And I certainly wouldn't be opposed if he'll hold pricing, where it is for 3 years. I'd approve that today. If he says he'll keep the pricing 3 years,
Well, I
works
think,
for me.
he made the comments to me one time about the yard debris or whatever, that he could possibly look at maybe lowering that price because of the incinerator or whatever now that we have or that we're getting, that would allow him to, I don't know, he was talking about somehow or another that would charge, he could look at his pricing on that.
That way he
So I
might
know
could keep the
that's-
pricing.
What?
That could enable him to keep the pricing where it is for 3 years.
exactly, right.
Well, we could certainly ask him, again, certain details. I know we had a discussion today that when he cleans up, the crews clean up yard trash, they just leave debris. We could go into specifics if you want to, that the crew has to carry a broom and at least clean up a little bit after they pick that up. These are some of the details because we've been in this contract a long time. Right. And I think last couple years, things weren't done per the contract, and we felt the brunt of that. So now we have worked it out in 1 year, and everything is going good. So I'd caution you to say if there's any other details that you want to do, let's do it, especially price. If he'll hold the price, then I think that's valid. but most specifically, if service does fall off and, we happen to, suffer because of it, Rob's going to really have to take a look at those paragraphs to make sure that we can't go back to where we were. So
Right,
that's my only
absolutely,
addition.
yeah. I agree with that.
So sweeping up, do you want to do some details like that to add into the yard trash? That, look, it's a
I
level
mean,
of service.
They just picked up in my house today. You can tell exactly where it was. Stuff was left. 2 minutes before they left would make a huge difference to what the street looks like. And I think we should add that.
Yeah, we could write those in, and I will talk to Richard. If he'll hold the price, then I'll make these minor changes, put that in, give it to Rob, and then, I may be ready.
I will say, he's picked up his game.
Yes.
I've seen a marked improvement,
Definitely.
which is the only reason we're saying maybe do 3 years.
Okay,
so.
I understand.
Yeah.
So if there's anything else that you think of, Ricky, did I miss anything? Okay. We'll make those couple changes. I'll talk to Richard about the price and then get this, at least to a document where you're ready to vote on it, so.
Okay,
Good, thank you.
all right. Thank you for that information. All right, we're also going to call back Rob and Danny on reviewing the proposed amendments to the Code of Ordinances and zoning table. So, Rob, who's going to?
Yeah, I guess I'll start,
You
let
start,
Danny
okay.
chime in. Basically, this issue came up when we were talking about conditional uses some time ago, and in bars being a conditional use. And one of the things I think was MJ suggested that we look at perhaps adding to our code, our land development code, a definition of an event center. And so the first ordinance that we're looking at would be adding to the land development code a definition for a banquet or meeting hall event center. And what the definition I put means a use which provides a rental space for group functions such as, but not limited to, wedding parties, conferences, service club meetings, and similar gatherings, along with the catering of food and or alcoholic beverages. The other thing that we determined that we needed to add to the definitions in our land development code is surface mining. We had an individual who has what we call a borrow pit, which is basically surface mining under state law. So we added another category or another definition for surface mining as a potential use in the land development code. The next ordinance basically is a revision to the table of uses. And basically this ordinance will add to our table of uses the banquet or meeting hall event center and the surface mining. Now, on the banquet or meeting hall event center, we have where it's a permitted use in general business and commercial downtown. There are supplementary, you see an S in that column, that means supplementary standard. And as you know, there's a lot of different uses that our land development code has supplementary standards, like kennels and things of that nature. So I have given you a handout of basically a draft of what we have been trying to work on for supplementary standards for banquet, meeting halls, and event centers. Jessica chimed in sometime this morning about these supplementary standards. I'm inviting everybody to take a look at them. But what I was, and Danny and Pete, we've been talking about it, is what we're trying to avoid is basically having an event center being rented out, a band being employed to play, and then members of the public just come in and pay a cover charge. I think that just really is a bar that's being catered, technically. So I'm trying to avoid that type of situation. Generally, if alcohol is being catered to an event, the caterer has to be licensed and has to get an event permit through the city in order to cater that function. And the application basically sets out where it's going to be located, who the host is, how many attendees there are. So I felt like, through our catering ordinance, requiring a licensed caterer, and basically requiring an event permit, that would kind of help as far as keeping this thing from really being a bar. So I've asked, folks to look at it. One of the things Jessica mentioned to me today was, well, why don't we have it open on Sundays? I think that certainly would be appropriate for an event center versus a bar. I was thinking about, when I'm trying to think about what are problems that we might have, is maybe people loitering or gathering on the outside or in the parking lot, things of that nature. So I'm trying to develop, with Pete and Danny's help and council, what you might think to be appropriate standards in order to regulate these event centers, trying to keep them from basically turning into nothing more than a bar that's being catered. This ordinance and recommendations are going to be going to planning and zoning, I believe on October the 12th. That's correct. And because we have a timing issue regarding getting this to council for a vote, council will not be able to vote on this until November the 2nd, just because of the 15-day minimum requirement we have for advertising the public hearing. So what I was hoping is that planning and zoning can take a look at that, make some recommendations, put it back on the October 19 regular meeting as a discussion item, maybe work through what might be appropriate standards, and then hopefully once we've got that ironed out, we can go ahead and present it to council on November the 2nd. Now, one of the motivating factors, naturally, was to establish the event center meeting hall, was so that it would not fall into a lounge or bar, requiring it to go through a conditional use process, getting the conditional use permit, and taking that time that would be required if you're looking at locating a bar versus an event center. So this would allow somebody who wants to get a business license for an event center to go ahead and make that application. And if everything is appropriate, then they can go ahead and get a business license without going through the conditional use process that you would have to do if it was a bar or a lounge. So that's basically where we are.
Questions? Yeah, I think that sounds like that will solve our issues we've had, so.
We have learned by a couple examples,
Yeah.
and we present ordinances to you. We try to think of everything, and it takes some folks on the outside to point out things that we didn't think about, and that's just part of the business, but that's our job to bring it back to you and do smart things. So I think this is a classic example of such terminology. So.
Okay. All right, any comments, concerns? Good, okay. All right, we will move on to the next item then. That's all of our old business. The new business is an update on our Urban Redevelopment Agency and the Community Development Partnership with Abac Rural Studies Program. Bruce, do you want to make the introductions and introduce our folks?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of things. Our URA chair had to step out, and she gave her regrets, but she wanted to be here with us tonight. And last year, we had a call from Dr. Larson out at Abac about he wanted to share with us what he was doing, and we wanted to share with him what the URA and both downtown development were doing. So we started a dialogue, and both myself and Abby have been out a couple of times to speak to their classes until, of course, COVID hit, and that slowed everything down. Well, in the meantime, we were talking about our work in South Tifton, and so we said, here are some possible things that we could do. And so we were cruising along at a good speed, and when the college shut down, it stopped our research because the students were no longer on campus. But they did, and they were able to contribute. And Dr. Larson's just going to talk about that, as well as their relationship with us in the months to come, and hopefully as this COVID pandemic settles down. So I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Eric Larson, with the Abac Rural Studies Program.
How are you? Welcome. We're glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be anywhere just about
There you go.
these days. So thanks for allowing me to take a few minutes, and I appreciate Bruce that introduction there. As Bruce was saying, we've been working with the Urban Redevelopment Agency, as well as other members throughout the community in a number of different ways. That was probably the larger set of projects that my students had been engaged with. Working with Bruce, we developed 4 different projects that the students in my class were able to start participating in, that included a historic resource survey, the cultural heritage survey, the housing conditions report, as well as then tax-based analysis. Forget things. During the course, right, they were going out, setting things up, doing visits out in the South Tifton area, and beginning to collect resources. And then, of course, right, the pandemic did hit, which made it so that the overall goals of each of these projects did fall short of the original intent. But the students took it upon themselves to make sure that they found alternative ways to gather information, and found a number of interesting items that at some point in a different session, or I can provide additional information, some recommendations for different systems such as QPublic and other things where in combination trying to gather the data they needed to do some of the work that they wanted to accomplish. Some of those resources sort of fell short, and allowing them to achieve those goals. But overall, they made additional recommendations and enjoyed the process. All right, and so the goal of my classes, so I teach in the Rural Studies Department. I am a sociology professor, but I teach rural sociology, and I teach their community development courses they have for the social and community development degree program. And the goal is to make sure that students have practical application of material within the community, so they can be a force for good while still applying the things that they do. And so the relationship that Bruce and I have started to develop over the last year has been quite helpful in providing those opportunities. And again, right, the connection between Abac and Tifton is very strong. And so it's nothing new having students come out and do it, but having them come out in a way that's much more structured, gathering information and projects that are a strong benefit to the Tifton area is, I think, taking what's been done a little another step further. So this semester, I have a student that is doing a practicum with Bruce and the Tifton Urban Redevelopment Authority. So he'll be working on that throughout the semester. And then next semester, I have another course that is looking at community organizations, and so we will be using that as a mechanism to continue our work with Bruce, as well as trying to identify a couple other organizations that are applying and trying to address community issues and having the students work within that. So my goal is to, again, right, get students involved in a beneficial manner that for them as well as for Tifton in general, to develop and foster, actual leaders that will hopefully stay here, but if not, they will be strengths and assets to whatever communities they end up in the positions that they do. So.
Well, I know Bruce has been very complimentary of the partnership, and it's been very beneficial. It sounds like for both you and your students, as well as for the city of Tifton.
Yeah.
So I think that we're always looking to forge partnerships and friendships and build upon that. So I think this is just a natural. And of course, Abby McLaren, who's our
Yes.
downtown development director, is a graduate of the Rural Studies program. And she's got it going on, and she understands how all this works, and so being able to provide that stage where they can actually, like you said, that practical experience where they're actually going to go and put something into practice rather than just talk about it. It's been, like I said, it's beneficial for both the city and for the students. So we're very grateful for the partnership.
Well, it's been great, and we have, the internship process, and one of our students has been interning with Bruce and with
Right.
Abby in the Downtown Development Authority, and she's done,
Catherine.
Charlie,
Yeah,
yes,
she's
has
been
done
great, yeah.
a fantastic job, and so it's, Abac is provided an avenue for me to be able to do what I do, which is a social scientist. I am the co-owner of an applied social science research partnership where we do a lot of different stuff, including community well-being assessments and project assessments, survey design, and development. And so I'm able to marry that with what I'm doing with my students, and hopefully also get involved in the community. Because I don't know if you can tell from my diction, but I'm new. I've only been here for a year. I did not grow up in the South. I didn't grow up in Georgia. I grew up in Utah. And so I'm here learning, trying to apply what I gained over the course of my experiences, pass that on to the students, but also forge connections that benefit the community itself, my students, Tifton, and build that network. So.
Exactly. Well, like I said, it's an excellent partnership, and we're very appreciative. Did any of the council have questions or comments of Dr. Larson and how everything's working? I know, MJ serves on the Urban Redevelopment Agency, and you've seen firsthand how, the success of the partnership, so.
We're just really grateful that, we have you in class and available and ready to help us out, so it's good.
And I'll just say thank you for, MJ's going to be coming to my class
Oh, good.
in a couple weeks
Excellent.
to
Good.
discuss and talk with him, so I
Excellent.
appreciate that.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Larson.
Thank you.
Again, we greatly appreciate the partnership and the information and the research that your students are providing is just invaluable, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Bruce, any other comments or anything to add? Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, moving on to our next item under new business. Jeff West is going to talk to us about surplusing some propane tanks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're requesting to surplus 6 30,000-gallon propane tanks that we have out at our peak shaving plant. Just to give you a little history of the peak shaving plant, it was originally put in to replace natural gas during peak demands to lower the cost of penalties and fines. This facility hadn't ran since 2010. There's been no need for it. And last time that we even paid a fine was 2013, and it was because of some weather we had that it got down to 16 degrees several days in a row, and it cost $15,000 that year. It's gas is measured in cubic feet, and we went over by 1,000 cubic feet back in 2013. To rehab the place out there and make it run again, which is not feasible, would be around $350,000 to $500,000. That's just a rough estimate. We can pay a lot of fines and penalties before we reach that amount. We feel like that we can get around, I don't want to guess, neighborhood of $100,000 for the propane that's in the tanks and the tanks itself, put back in the gas fund. We will bid it out and sell it as a package deal. If you buy the gas, you've got to buy the tanks and get rid of those two. It's a liability, them sitting there, and we'll get rid of the liability, and there will be no regulatory issues with it either once we get rid of them. And we're trying to keep our perfect record. As Pete spoke a couple of weeks ago, second year in a row we had no penalties at all, and they're starting to look at it and they're asking what we're going to do, and we've been telling them we'd like to sell it, and we need to move on it and make it happen.
Who do you anticipate bidding on it?
We've already had 2 companies that are interested. One that actually would give me an estimate. Each tank's 30,000 gallons, average of about 70% in each tank. And most companies are gonna pay us 80% of market value of the gas. So if gas is $1, they're gonna give us 80 cents a gallon for that gas that's in the tank, along with scrap prices for the tank or whatever the tanks are worth.
So they're gonna buy it for the gas,
Yes, but they'll have to dispose of the tanks and buy those also.
and that's the part that scares me. Rob, and I mean, this is going back to my Alcoa days
Yes.
and selling things that then somebody uses or something happens to it, whatever could happen with the tank and propane, whether it blow up, what this, that, what, you know, whatever, not disposed of properly, well, guess who they're gonna come back
Yeah,
against?
and there's language in the bid package where they have to purge the tanks. There's a lot of safety stuff in there. It's been 14, 15 years ago, but in Perry, Georgia, I've done the same thing there, and it worked very well. The companies are very reputable. That's what they do.
Okay. Just need to make sure that they have deep pockets,
Yes,
because when somebody's hurt, they go after the one with the deep pockets, and there is no, you know, the city has a hole in the pocket.
that's right.
Reach down as far as they need to go, so, okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Jeff? You good? Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for that information. All right, Pete, you're up next for consideration of the new streetscape project on Commerce Way.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I spoke at the DDA meeting 2 weeks ago, and I think everyone knows there's 3 businesses, viable businesses that are going to be rehabbed and changing on Commerce Way. So one of the considerations that has to happen now is looking at the entire streetscape of that section from 3rd to 82. The sidewalk is pretty well gone. There's an elevation issue. We have some stormwater issues. So it's time to redo that. We don't have any grant money like a streetscape. However, I pitched the idea to the DDA board to say if they would pay for the design and engineering for the improvements, that we could possibly tuck this up under a T-Splost project. I'm assuming Chestnut was $400,000, and Commerce Way is not going to be as detailed as that. So it's not going to be an expensive project, but I'm asking your permission to go forward, put this on the tab to bring this forward, start the engineering, develop the plans, and redo this particular section of street because of the investments going in along the business front.
I think we need to support this. Right now, if you drove down the road, there's not much to look at, but in the coming months, there's going to be a lot going on that road. So, Bruce, you were familiar with that. What would you guesstimate the kind of the value of the investment along Commerce Way with regard to the acquisition of property and then the renovation work, just ballparking?
It's about 22,000 square feet, 3 owners, and $1 million.
Yeah, so it'll be a good, and that's just the beginning. And as you know, as you've seen with the rest of our downtown development, once we start those improvements and once the private sector starts those improvements, it begins to snowball. So, so it's investment into our tax base, it's an investment into attract additional tax base. That won't be all the buildings that will need, rehabbed and to be occupied, but it certainly is an outstanding start. And I think we'll see more, especially if we can go and address the issues that we have with the infrastructure there, the sidewalks and the road and everything. It's not very nice right now, so hopefully that will change. Comments, thoughts?
So we had gotten grants before.
Well, for a streetscape, and I use that term just because it's improvement, and it really wasn't a grant because the city paid dearly for the streetscape after it was all said and done with. So I'm using that term very loosely, and it's a road improvement and sidewalk improvement. So it's going to be a project for beautification for sure, but fixing some of the ailing sidewalk and issues we have along that road.
Oh, we're awfully quiet. Any
Well, I
other
mean,
questions?
it's a matter of
No,
where
I mean,
it's a matter of where we spend the money.
What's that?
It's just a matter of where we spend the money. Do we spend it there? And then talking about T-Splosh, do you spend it there? Do you pave streets? So it's just a matter of priorities, so.
All right, any other comments, questions? regarding Commerce Way?
When I do have some exact numbers from engineering, again, DDA will pay for that, then I'll bring that back and share, but I wanted to at least
Okay.
get your permission to kick that off, because
Yeah.
it'll take us a little while to
Right.
get that going.
Well, I think especially if they're willing to cover that front, the front end, we have to have design and everything. So if they'll cover that with their budget, then we'll know how to move forward. All right, any other questions on the Commerce Way project? All right, the next item is item number 8, consideration of annexation for identified Leslie Locke Road parcels. And Danny, you're gonna handle that?
Mayor, Council, I wanted to bring before you for consideration the annexation of approximately 16.95 acres. This is located along Carpenter Road, better known as Shiver Diesel, and Leslie Locke Road, and there is a cotton warehouse, many warehouses, and some sort of timber company down that road, and a blank lot. In talking about budget car sales that was brought to y'all's attention a few months ago, I reached out to the Regional Commission, and they said that this was an island by law, and they suggested that we annex it and help clean up our city borders. They did advise that Valdosta went through something similar several years back, and I think it would be a good thing for the city of Tifton. Rob and I have worked together, and Pete, and we've put together everything legally. It's not your normal annex. Very soon, if you all consider it and approve it, very soon after that, the zoning is going through the zoning process, and it will be later, okay? We have to meet those advertising deadlines.
So we didn't go looking to annex this property. This all kind of revealed itself when budget said they wanted to de-annex.
Correct.
And so that's what started this process. So-
That's correct. And I reached out to Regional Commission. They said, "Oh, Lord, honey, you need to get in there and do that."
Right.
So,
And also, I think one of, the goals for the 2 years, you've asked me to look at annexation. We just really started, and again, we found this one because of something else. But as we find this, the more, obviously, we have the side-by-side comparisons, the benefits of, coming into the city. We have a lot of work to do, but again, it's the upfront, having the discussions and then putting it in motion that's when we do our thing. But this is administrative, and certainly in accordance with the laws that we have to contend with.
Can we go back to the public hearing? Is that not going to create a similar situation if everything moves forward with the annexation and zoning change on the 1.47 acres? Will that not create a similar situation?
an island?
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
So that was the, what's the gentleman's name up there? Some developers up there that's building a subdivision.
Yeah.
So we made, there's property back there, so
So
an island.
there is a contiguous.
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha.
The island is created here by the road.
Right.
Carpenter Road.
Okay,
But we did leave land so they could annex in
Gotcha, okay.
up on the
That's
north
attached
side.
to David's property. the
That's
sub-
correct.
David Deloach, okay, I
Yeah.
remember that now.
Finley Chase.
all
I
right.
mean, to me, we need to clean up these lines, and it's clearly, Regional Commission says do it. I think we need to educate, do better education maybe with these owners. There's a perception when you ask somebody about, well, we need to annex in the city, oh, no, I don't wanna do that, I don't pay more taxes. Well, they need to look at the whole thing. I think their perception is that here's the city tax, and it's just gonna be added to whatever I'm paying to the county. Not true. Not true.
Not true.
There are special service tax districts that the county has that would go away. And clearly, we need to ask them the question, if your building catches on fire, where do you think the fire truck's coming from? I guarantee you, 6 out of 6 would say, well, it's gonna come from right down on Carpenter Road there on the west side of Salem. No, not going to happen. If you let me recall you the statement, country boys need a fire department too. Well, that's where the fire truck is coming from, through nothing that we've done, but it's clearly in the city, and we don't go outside the city limits unless there's some huge issue and they need help. That's a different story. So with some education, I think people will look at it and say, okay, for maybe a little bit more money, and not necessarily a great deal, here's what I'm gonna get. Chief Hyman's gonna send patrol cars by there and now can, you know, be included in patrols and stuff. So I think with some education, I don't think it'd be as big of, oh my God, now I gotta pay all this money.
Right. Okay. So because of the nature of this, with it being an island, as it is, we don't have to go through that public hearing process then? Okay,
No, ma'am.
I just want to make sure that's clear on that.
No, ma'am. Rob assisted on
Yeah,
that.
the public process, Jack, is right, the education starts now.
Right.
It depends on which way you want to go.
Right.
As we have a lot of work to do and to overcome this, you know,
Sure.
the shadow of annexation, because it's really not a bad thing. So-
Right, okay. All right, any other questions for Danny or for Pete or Rob before we move on to the next item? Everybody good? Okay. All right, thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our new business. Now we're looking at resolutions. Jeff, do you want to talk about the potential grant application for the Georgia Relief Program?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We've been approached by the tree board to, they're asking for the city's endorsement on them applying for a grant through the Southwest Georgia Relief Program by the Georgia Forestry Commission. Not going to bore you with all the details, but after Hurricane Michael, there was some money set aside to come back and replace trees in communities, and that's what this is about. The tree board is writing the grant, and they're applying for a $10,000 grant, and the Heritage Foundation has agreed that they would meet the 25% match to go along with it. So really no money from the city. I think it's a good thing, and would appreciate your endorsement on it.
Okay. Any questions? Of course, the eligible projects and program overview, everything's in our packet, so you can see what that grant would cover. And I think
I mean, it's education, not just trees. There's some education factors in there, and they've come up with a pretty good plan of some things they'd like to do with the trees.
okay. And I know that's one of the responsibilities of our tree board is to maintain not only an inventory of trees, but to make sure that our community is forested so that we have trees in our community. And if the Tifton Heritage Foundation, which is basically the kind of a voluntary neighborhood association within the historic district, who's been very supportive and cares very much about the trees in the community, if they'll partner, I think that's a good partnership and a good way to use that money. So any issues or concerns that anyone has as far as our endorsement of that? Okay, I think we're good.
Maybe, I hate to put you on the spot before Jeff sits down. Can you just give a quick update about resurfacing?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
sir.
yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
glad
thank
to.
you.
Proud to say we've gotten probably 60% of the streets paved already, and the company's doing a very good job. I've been on every road.
Which ones are done?
The streets that have been completed are Murray Avenue, King Street, Carolina Avenue, Georgia Avenue, 26th Street, 10th Street, that section there that we paved, Lakeview, Lee, Carmichael, 28th. On Friday, they paved the section of Ferry Lake. They've just got to come back and stripe it. Now, I was very impressed. Some people that live right there on Ferry Lake, I think they were so glad to have a freshly paved road. There were two different people down through there that had people forming up for concrete driveways. They've never had concrete driveways, but I guess they're going to tie into the fresh asphalt and look good.
Okay,
But
well, good.
it's looking very good. I'm very proud of it, and hopefully within the next 2.5 weeks, we'll be complete.
Excellent.
The next streets they've got to do is South Central. It's going to be milled and paved from 82 all the way to 17th.
Okay,
Tift Avenue from 82 to 2nd will be milled and paved. And Tift Avenue, both of those really need it. King Road, there's several places out there. Kent, there's several places out by the high school, so be glad to get all that done, but it's looking really good.
all right, y'all have any
Thank you.
questions
Thank you, Jeff.
of Jeff on that paving?
Looks good.
Thank you, thank you. All right, our next items under our resolutions all relate to alcohol beverage licenses. Jessica, anything we need to know about any of our applicants?
Staff is recommending issuing each of those licenses. The
Uh-huh.
only one that is a new one would be the Pizza Quick, and they are moving
and those applications are in our packet. So you can review those, and then if you have any questions or anything, just let Jessica know. All right, now we have, under other business, our financial report. Dana, where'd Dana go? There she is.
Y'all have updated reports in front of you for July and for the month of August. I just want to go over these, kind of like the structure of it. The first fund you see is general fund. On the left, you see your revenues, and on the right, you see your expenditures, and where we are year-to-date, and percentage-wise also. If you look at the bottom where it says total revenues, total expenditures, we're only at 8% in general fund. Expenses are at 13%. That's normal this time of year because we are now starting to collect property taxes. So, and that'll be coming in the next couple months, and that will offset that. And we have some other revenues also that'll be coming in this month.
That's what I was gonna ask Dana, because the two big ones, other than the property taxes, your insurance premium tax, how does it come in?
They direct deposit it into our accounts.
But how, it's at zero.
It
So we've
should
gone
be
2 months,
here.
it's none.
Right, it should be here
Comes around November, December, doesn't it?
15th, 14th of October. I've got an email saying that's when they're gonna send the funds out.
And how much will that be?
I don't have a number yet.
Or how often, let me ask it another way, how often do we actually get it?
Once a year.
Okay, so we'll know in a month that we're gonna get the 1.1 million. Okay.
I'm hoping to be more than that.
Okay, and then licenses and permits are the other one, and that's just as they happen, so we don't know
Right.
anything at this point to say, I guess it's too early to know whether we're gonna be ahead or behind, so.
We start renewing January 1, and there's the final, they're due without penalty, 90 days, so they have until April 1st to get it in.
Okay. The water fund has the same structure. If you look at the very bottom, the percentage where we're at right now for the end of August, collected at 20%, which is good, and we have only spent 10%,
Which is better.
which is good. You got your revenues and your expenditures. Then the same structure for the sewer fund. Sewer fund's doing good with the revenues versus the expenditures. And these funds come in monthly as we bill our customers. Gas fund is the same way. Of course, we haven't had any cold weather yet, so. Then landfill is the same, because these are enterprise funds, so we bill our customers in the landfill, and they're doing good versus what we spent so far these 2 months.
Looks good.
That's where we are.
Excellent. All right, any
Okay.
questions of Dana?
One of the things, again, this is some of it may be new, but on the right-hand side of the expenditures, what wanted to give you a good snapshot of, we loaded all the expenses such as ESG or indirect cost, anything that's going to hit on the particular funds, you're going to be able to see that as we climb through the year. So it's a really good snapshot, very easy to determine where we are in each. So again, this is a new report, thanks to Dana and her staff for putting this together, because it's really going to give you an idea of where we are on the revenue and expenditure side. And then also I provided you 2 copies of the retirement fund, and I want to present this at the same time. One was at end of March, and then the latest as of June 30th. You could see where our investment is. On the second page, the investment managers, where our money is invested. There's an asset allocation, the portfolio, and if you're interested in what type of equities we're in. And then lastly, the investment performance. So as of June 30th, the investment returns for 1 and 3, 5 years were 4.43%, 7.36%, and 7.72%. So the retirement fund is tracking. It's going good. Obviously, next quarterly report will probably show a pretty good uptick on the 1 year. But all in all, retirement is very, very healthy.
Excellent. All right, any questions of Pete or Dana? A lot of information, a lot of good information. So thank you for that, Dana. Thank you for creating that report. That does make it a lot easier to
It's a lot
see in a
easier to
glance.
read than what it
Than
has
those
been in the
notebooks,
past.
yeah.
Sorry, it's tiny, but.
No, you did great.
It's all in.
That's why we have this. You know, you did good. That's perfect. And to get a compliment from Jack, I mean, that's big. That's, so anyway.
What can I say?
I know. All righty, let's move on then. Pete, the next item is your city manager report.
Thank
Anything you want to
Thank
talk
you, Mayor.
about?
Yep, just a few things. Jeff and, again, ESG, we're prepping for the 2nd Street project. As you know, we're gonna do new water lines and a resurfacing. That's part of the T-SPLOS, but the DOT is funding that 100%. So they did give us monies towards the water line itself. We do have a contractor gonna be doing that. So realistically, this could start as of early as November. So we're hustling to get the water lines done. So we could see a lot of interruption on 2nd Street. This is a good thing. Once that's done, then DOT, the project has been let, and the paving, resurfacing could start very, very soon. So really excited about that, and obviously replacing the water lines, just like the 20th Street project is a great thing on any project of that magnitude. So staying by for more info on that. Chief Hyman presented in our staff meeting this morning. He's done a video. It's called Lock It or Lose It. All month he's going to do a campaign with neighborhood watch groups and certain other groups to, start getting some information out to the community. Into the community. Those are just an example of the flyers we're going to run on a government channel. That all the entries, all the break-ins that we're seeing are because someone's leaving something open. And the statistics could support that. And I can't remember the exact number. I think it's 47, 74 guns have been stolen because folks leave in the car and the car is open. Vehicles are being stolen because the keys are in the vehicle. So he's done a great job with this campaign, and I think we just need to reiterate it every day, twice a day, to say lock it or lose it. And again, he's done a video, and I think he's done a great job with that to get out to the community to say, you've got to go the extra step of taking your stuff out and locking your stuff up. So that's a great thing for us, and hopefully we can slow this petty stuff down. Lastly, the employee appreciation lunch is tomorrow. Hopefully you could join us. It's at 11:30 at the Public Works Complex. It is Cities Week, so we want it's a little different this year. Emily has worked hard just to do what we can do given the climate and the spacing. But if you could show up for lunch, that'd be great. And again, we're going to show some appreciation and thank all our employees for what they do. Part of the Cities Week, but this is the time of year that we like to do it, and we'll continue to do it as long as we can. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's all I have for tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. We'll go through quickly and do mayor and council comments, and then we'll adjourn this meeting and open up our special call meeting. So, MJ, you want to lead us off?
Glad to be here. Really want to highlight Mr. Hyman, Chief Hyman, for stepping up on the Lock and Lose It. We have gotten a lot of calls over the last few months about some break-ins and different things, but it is that summer there's been a lot of just forgetful locking the doors and just leaving stuff out. So that is a good job on that. Also, I want to thank Mr. West on y'all stepping up on. I've seen some of the road work going on, and that's really looking good. And it's riding well as well, so I'm not shaking the bobbin in the car. So we really appreciate that, and, you know, as we don't want it, but the virus is still alive, so y'all stay safe.
Exactly. Jack?
Yeah, I'll echo that. Jeff, the roads are looking great. I appreciate Chief Hyman. I don't know if you caught the guy on the motorcycle with the baby, or the
Oh,
young
my
child.
goodness.
We figured out where he's at, but we hadn't called him moved him.
I mean, he's riding on a motorcycle with a baby sitting in his lap. Neither one have helmets, nothing. They circle through the neighborhood here and there, and anyway, I know he's on it, but it's crazy. And then, you know, I appreciate everybody with the mask and keeping the mask up while you talk. That's when the thing, and I know I harp on it, and I'm a nut about it, but my sister-in-law just found out 2 days ago that she is tested positive. Her health is terrible to begin with, so she's the type that whether you make it or not, it's questionable. I believe my brother-in-law probably has it too. He hasn't found out yet, but based on seeing him today, from the distance, not even close, he probably does. So Tiff County is in the red. This thing, and you walk around and you see people, and of course they don't give a rat about somebody else. Those people that you see not wearing a mask don't give one iota care about other people, because if they did, they would be wearing a mask. So that tells me all I need to know about them is they don't wear a mask, don't care about somebody else. And I get excited about it. I get upset about it because it's a life or death situation. 200,000 people have died, over 200,000 people. And you should fear it, regardless of what you might read in a tweet. You should fear it. It is deadly to the wrong person. And we don't know the life, what can happen to you over your lifetime if you've gotten it. And it's a simple thing. Wear a mask if you care about other people. If you don't care about other people, live your business and be free. You have to live with yourself and look at yourself in the mirror. So anyway, I'll quit my rant.
Weston?
I'm good.
You good? All right, I'm good too. Just want to thank all of our outstanding city staff and employees for the hard work that all of you do. I know that some days it's easier than others, and it can be a challenge, and especially under the circumstances that we are living right now, but I commend all of you for being flexible, for being present, and not missing a beat. It's difficult going through all of this for all of us, but you can't shut the government down. You can't stop the police from patrolling and the firefighters from fighting fire, and water still has to run when you turn the pipes on, and all of those things. So I just want to thank all of our city folks for all that you do and your dedication and your hard work. So thank you for that. Is there anything else to come before the council as far as our workshop is concerned? All right, we will adjourn this meeting, and then I will call to order our special called meeting. We have one item that's on our agenda, but I do think we wanted to add another item to the agenda in our special called meeting. So Pete, do you want to go over that, and then we'll get started?
We just did receive the Form 2 updates. We went back and forth with the county. So Rob and I looked over Form 2s. There was administrative, very small minor adjustments to be made to forms. Those have been done. I have them here. If you would like to add those to the agenda, we go ahead and vote through this, and this can be done with.
Okay, are y'all okay adding that to the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, do we need that in form of a motion, Rob? Okay, all right, I will need a motion, so you want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion
Okay,
to
thank
add
you.
that to the
Wes.
agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll add that item to the agenda. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so our first item will be, we talked about, Jeff mentioned to us the relief program grant, so we'll need to approve supporting that.
I move we approve it.
Okay, all right, is there a second? Thank you. Any further discussion?
MJ has a
MJ
second.
did, Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, and then that item on the Form 2s,
I'll be glad to make the motion.
Okay, excellent. Is there a second? Well,
I'll
tell you what,
second it.
I was gonna say I'll second it.
Just ask what, are we, last time we updated our, SDS, we did that with our resolution. Do y'all have that drafted, or we just do an oral county, or is it official?
We do not have a full resolution drafted.
So it's
We
just
got
approval of the
Form 2
forms?
back. I think that if the council wants to approve it, we can sort of do that by a oral vote, and then we can, I'll draft the appropriate resolution for Julie to sign.
Okay, so we'll,
Based off this or at the next?
Do I need to amend mine to say that I approve
The
a
resolution.
resolution to approve the Form 2s?
Yes.
So be it.
okay, you got that, Jess? Okay, and then Jack, you seconded it?
I
right?
seconded
Okay.
it.
All right, so we have the motion and a second.
And Jessica, if you'll check that when we first talked about it, we had the cover sheet. I think there was also some, there was a vote for the affirmative about the resolution, so you may want to check the minutes on that.
Well, basically, there was a resolution where the council approved the Form 2 subject to the
That's right.
changes that the county was going to make to the Form 2s. Some of those changes that were made, there's some additional changes that were made that were mostly technical in nature, not substantive. So that's what we got back from the county. So, as I understand, we have a resolution, basically a motion for a resolution to approve the Form 2s as provided to us by the county after our corrections.
Okay, so the word mostly is what I want to hear about. Mostly technical, but, I mean, is there anything substantive to this?
Well, the only one that I can, that comes to mind is that the county had on the library, that the county was providing that service. And the fact it's the Coastal Plains Regional Library that provides the service, and the funding mechanism had to be changed since we were both funding the library through our general fund at the present funding levels that were going to remain the same. So that was majority.
So aren't we both providing the service? Can only one provide the service?
Well, the service provider is technically the Coastal Plains Regional Library System.
Okay,
So when you look at the block number 1, that's the provider providing countywide. And then when you go to the funding mechanisms, then the funding mechanisms will show the money being paid by the city of Tifton through our general fund, taxes, fines, etc. Same thing for the county. And then just below the funding methods, we included the fact that the city and the county general funds fund the library system, and it's going to be maintained at the current funding levels.
Okay.
So if that is the main change. We did ask the county to take out some of the funding mechanisms that they put in their special service district so that it complied with Georgia law. So that was pretty much what.
so they did everything we wanted, that we needed done?
Yes,
So you're okay with it?
yes.
Did that answer your question?
Hey, after 2 years, back to square one, I'm okay, you might as well go ahead.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion and a second. We've had this discussion. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we do need to, that will adjourn our special called meeting then. We do need to go into executive session for legal purposes, so I will take a motion to that effect.
So moved.
All right, we have motions or second? Second? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, I mean, no.
You can't say no.
All right, we'll take just a
Sorry for the confusion.